Hi, welcome back. I'm Cindy Wagner. My job is to organize, digitize, repair, and preserve your photos. I'm doing these series of chats in case you've decided that now is a good time for you to organize your photo collection. And I'm offering tips, techniques. This is what I do, so I figured I could help. So, in this chat, what we're going to talk about is sorting our printed photos just after the big chunk sort. So, we're still working kind of in big pieces, but before we get to that, you actually have a decision that you can make. And that is, what order would you like to organize your photos into? What I mean, you could organize by event. You could organize by person, or you could organize by chronological order. So, just give this some thought if it would be useful to you. If you have a collection that is just all over the place and you have no order at all to it. There's no photo albums, there's no big chunks of photos, it's just scattered. It happens. So, one method you could use is to sort by event. You could look at a photo and put that in the Christmas sorting box, or you look at a photo and you put that in the birthday box, or in the wedding box, or in the vacation box. And you could have a number of different sorting boxes like this, and each one you're adding an event to. And then when you finish with that, you go through each sorting box and try to put that in a chronological order because you can kind of see the progression of things. Another way to do it is by person. Now, in my family, it ain't happening. I mean, I think we counted and there's close to 60 people. I'm not having 60 sorting boxes. But if the collection calls for it, you could just put people's names. Say there's 10 people. You put their names on the sorting box, and as you come to a photo, you take it and, oh, that's JoJo. You put it in JoJo's box. It works for some collections. And then you can, once you're done with that, you sort each person. They grow older in the box. It actually is not that hard to do chronological order once you do that. The issue that I have with it is my head doesn't work that way. Most of my photos are groups of people. So whose box does it go in? It's just, it is a way of going when it works for that collection. I got no problem with it when it works. The way I do it, the way I encourage most people to do it, because most collections have some kind of order to them. And that is to do it chronologically. How much detail you decide to get into is quite your business. But I'm going to let these talks may take us into some great detail as we go along. But that's my specialty. It's what I do. But for now, let's just get the idea going that the tables we set up, or it may involve even the floor of the room, or it may involve the entire room. When I sorted my family's things, it's over 100 years of photos, so I actually went into another room, but that's okay. You use how much space you need. Okay, so the first thing that I did here, I think you can see it, what we have are photo albums, and the photo albums are imperfect, but I did them by decade. So these little stickies, I think you can see the stickies here. So I start in the 2000s, closest to the camera this way, and then I worked my way back. So it's the 2000s, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. And then I put sticky notes for the 60s, the 50s, and the 40s. I just don't have any photo albums from those, but I do have pictures. So I got my photo albums, and I'm just putting out the decades. I'm not even trying to put them in order right this minute. Just decade. That's enough detail for now. So then the next chunk that I go through are the envelopes, the developing envelopes. Some people just have them in there. They never got to the album. They just stayed in the envelope. Not a problem. Now I've got a pack of photos in an envelope that they all go together. Yay! So first of all, this one looks pretty holiday-ish, right? So I got that going. And then when I open it up, when I look at the back of the photos, sometimes the developers put dates of developing. It's not the date it was taken, but the date it was developed. Close enough for jazz. These happen to have been January of 1988. So that makes it Christmas of 1987. So I'm going to put over here in my 1980s decade. Okay. And then this one has a date from the developer. It is from 94, so that goes in the 90s. And then, this one, I remember, it doesn't have the developer. There's no marks on the back. Fujifilm, they just didn't do that. I don't know why, but the person who kept it put a date right on the envelope, so that's spring of 05, so that goes in the early 2000s, so yay. The next big chunk is just packs of pictures that they weren't in an envelope, but they were kept together. So this, for example, is a wedding, okay? And this wedding, it's in my family, so I know it. It was from 83, so I'm going to put that over here in the 80s. If I was sorting someone else's photos, I'd need some clues. I'd look at what the ladies are wearing or what the gentlemen are wearing. I mean, or the cars on the street. I mean, sometimes you can pick up, you can be a little sleuth with this stuff. It's fun. Okay, I think it's fun. But anyway, another pack of pictures I came across. These have a very specific look to them. They are these little square photos, and they have I don't know if you can see that, get it up in the lights a little bit. There's a texture to them, and they're fading away, unfortunately. So when I look at these, I have some experience with these, and this is mid-70s. Oftentimes, I mean, obviously people may have been doing this in the late 70s or, whatever. But as I look, one or two of these is dated, and it is from 1975. So, yay, I have that information. So I'm going to put it back here with my 70s. It's just enough information to make the decade piles. That's what I'm looking for. So here's a little pack, not very many, but it is these square, and it is black and white. It's a little larger than I'm used to for the 1950s. So given what the guy is wearing, I'm going to guess it's from the early 60s. If this is your family, you may be able to go, oh, well, that's so-and-so's graduation, right? So that's what we're doing. We're just being a little sleuth here. So the 1960s, I got the 70s there. I've got the 60s here. I'm just going to continue my timeline down that way. Now here's a precious thing. Okay, this is a beautiful photo, and it is on a card. I don't know if you can see that. But this is from the very early 1900s. Talk about a decade, right? So I don't have a sticky for that. My stickies ended in the 40s, but I'm going to need a sticky for that. So I'm going to continue my timeline down the table. Okay. Now, a lot of people have these kind of photos. These are much smaller, and they are black and white, little square photos. Very common in the 1960s. Some of them had scalloped edges, different things. So 1960s, beg your pardon, 1950s. They're going to go right there. And then, now this is an older photo, you can certainly tell. Luckily, it's my mother's photo, and she wrote 1948 on it. Way to go, Mom. So I'm going to put that in the 1940s. This is the big printed photo sort. I'm sorting by decade. After you're done doing this and you have your timeline all over the room, all over the house, whatever you have, then the next thing we're going to do is take the photos out of the albums, take them out of the envelopes. We'll probably decide if we're going to, if we have negatives with the photos, we can figure out if we're going to scan the negatives, scan the photos. We got to look at them before we know that. So there's a lot of things we're going to do. However, before we start pulling photos out of albums and envelopes, we want a method to preserve any information that we have in those photo albums for our timeline. So we are going to discuss that next time. We are going to come up with a way to preserve that information. All right, so I am so looking forward to that. I hope you enjoyed this chat, and I'll see you then.